Hello and welcome to Namaste Thunder Bay. I'm Kelly Rooney and I'm going to guide you through a 25-minute yoga practice today. Recently I was inspired to want to share with everyone a little bit of yoga philosophy because we've been doing Namaste Thunder Bay for a long time and we've been focusing mostly on the postures, which we call the asana, and the breath work, which we call pranayama. And part of the yoga path that has had the biggest impact in my life personally has been learning and trying to live the yamas and the niyamas. So I decided that each week I would try and share a little bit of information with you about the yamas. The yamas are the social ethics or the restraints that we try to live by in our yoga path. And last week we delved into the first yama. It is a foundation of all the yamas and it is kindness. And the yama is called ahimsa. And ahimsa literally translated meant non-harming. And I won't go into too much today, but I wanted to share with you what we did last week because that is the foundation that we're going to build upon today. So we want kindness, that compassion for ourselves and others, kindness in our thoughts, our words, and our actions to be underlying all of the other yamas that we learn about and build upon. So today we are going to focus on the second yama, which is satya. And satya means truthfulness. And personally, I've struggled with building satya on top of ahimsa because truthfulness is important, but it's not about finding factual accuracy. It's about finding a truth that is built on top of kindness. So I've written notes again because obviously there's so much depth to the thoughts that go around the yamas that I wanted to make sure that I shared them with you in a way that hopefully can resonate with you and find some way to unlock new thoughts for yourself. So what I found when I was doing my research on satya, not just in the sutras, but also through all the different texts that are out there, I also reflected back on some of the people who have been most meaningful in my journey, and one of them was my teacher at yoga teacher training. And the way that he spoke was often very slow and very measured, and it was an insight into why he spoke slowly that connected me to satya. Satya is finding truthfulness that is built on top of kindness. And sometimes in order to do that, you have to slow down. And you have to filter what you're thinking before you say it so that you can find the truth. And truth, as I mentioned earlier, isn't about factually accurate. It's about what is kind and serves that other person at their highest level while maintaining my integrity at the highest level. So if you notice yogis who slow their speech down, or if you would like to try that as part of this practice, take a moment to breathe and pause before you react, especially if you're in a situation that can be challenging, because it is often reactive, the way that we communicate when somebody's pushed our buttons. And if we take a moment to breathe and to think of kindness first, and then sharing truth that will serve the other person while maintaining our integrity, then you might find that your response is different. So when somebody was asking me about how do you find factual accuracy with being kind? What if some friend says to you, "Do you like my dress?" And you don't like it, you think it's really, really ugly. Well, that truth would only be my truth, and that would only be my opinion. And it wouldn't necessarily serve the other person to share my fashion preference it wouldn't be built on top of kindness to share that thought. So what would be kind? Well, if that person is enjoying that dress and they are loving it on themselves, and it's not in line with my personal fashion taste, but I can see the happiness that it brings to them, my truth might fall in saying, it's not a style that I would like to wear, but I think you look fabulous. And this is something that I've experienced with my daughter, who, and I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers. Every time I come home and it looks like a tornado ripped through the house and it's really a mess and I just spent hours cleaning on it, I don't always take a breath and state that this room does not fit with my preference for order. But that's what I aspire to. It's about taking the judgment out of our statements and finding the truth that is kind. So part of the process is to remove judgment, as I just mentioned, but we can't remove all judgment. If we really removed all judgment, we wouldn't be able to make any decisions. So it's rather about becoming aware of our thoughts and whether we are going to choose if and when to judge. And how might this show up when we're practicing yoga on the mat? Well, I've experienced this personally. You might say to yourself, this posture doesn't do anything for me. I don't feel any stretch, or I don't feel like I'm building any strength. It doesn't do anything for me. That's a judgment. And sometimes when we are a student in a class, what comes to us is exactly what we need at that time. So it might be just a matter of learning to accept what comes without judging it. It might be that moment to let go of judgment. But the awareness and choosing whether you need to judge something or not is key. The other thought process that I jotted down is, I think that teacher is punishing me. I know many people have said this to themselves during classes before, and that is probably not the truth. I've never met a yoga teacher who's trying to punish anyone. We definitely don't get into this to be rich or famous, and we don't do it to try and punish people. We're here usually to try and guide people to finding stillness, peace, love and compassion for themselves and for everyone around them. I mentioned in previous episodes together when we're talking that we don't want to judge ourselves harshly, and so that can be part of the satya, is not getting caught up in the stories of why something isn't working for you. I can't do this pose because I'm not flexible. Well, that may have been a challenging posture before, but if you open your mind, your body will open too. So every time you practice, you might find that there's a little bit more flexibility than was there before. But often people hold on to the thought, I'm not flexible, and then they don't recognize that they're actually progressing in their practice, and it's only their thoughts that haven't changed. So this is all about building that connection. So with satya, we want to think about, am I speaking the truth, or am I just giving my opinion filtered through my own mind and prejudices? We also want to share the truth, both spoken and unspoken. We don't want to mislead by omission, and we definitely don't need to say everything that's on our mind, especially if it would hurt. So that's that taking a pause, taking a breath. Is this something that I need to share? And the other thing is gossip. It's one of those, we don't often intend to be harmful in our gossip, especially if it's true. You think, okay, I can say it because I know it to be true, but is it serving anyone to share that information? Speak only from your highest self to elevate others. And silence. This is I mentioned this idea of pausing and filtering and thinking and breathing before speaking. A big part of our yoga practice can be in silence, and often a yoga retreat will incorporate silence into it. And what that does is it finally gives you a moment to start hearing your own thoughts. We often are very busy in our lives, and we don't stop to even notice what is that constant chatter going on in my mind? So that I wanted to share that silence is also a great tool for being able to become aware so that satya can be present. So today, as we work through our practice, we're going to try to be in that moment. I'm going to take moments to be still and quiet so that we can practice satya, become aware of the thoughts that are in our mind. And then when we come off the mat, whether it's on the mat speaking to ourselves or off the mat speaking to others, that we take truth and we build it on top of kindness. So let's get ready to move. I'm going to move my cushion out of the way and get ready to come down onto the mat and prepare to move our bodies. You can start in a kneeling position if that works for you. You can stay in a seated position if that's your preference. We are creatures of habit, so if you are coming onto your mat and you always cross the right leg in front of the left, change things up today and put the left leg in front of the right. It helps us to balance out the body. One of the things that with your yoga practice you might become more body aware, and we are very often putting more pressure on one side of our body than the other and building tension up. So I'm going to try and shake things up by revolving or changing the way that we do them today. So with a nice tall spine, arms at your sides or on your knees, take a deep breath in and let it all out. You can close your eyes or lower your gaze if you feel more comfortable keeping your eyes open, just to take away the visual distractions. We're going to take another cleansing breath. Big breath in through the nose. Let it out through the mouth. And again. You can open your eyes or you can just lift your chin up slightly. We're going to ease some of the tension out of our neck first by taking your left ear over toward your left shoulder. You can place your left hand on your right shoulder or bring it up and over your head and let it place it on your head. Just a reminder, we're not pulling on the head using the weight, using force. We're just using the weight of our own arm to help release tension through the right side of the neck while maintaining a nice tall spine and letting go of tension as you breathe out, lengthening through the spine as you breathe in. Exhale, release tension. If you connect your breath to the movement, you may notice there's a little bit of movement in each breath. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, release. If your arm is up on your shoulder or on top of your head, lower it down to your side. Slowly bring the neck up to neutral. And then ease the right ear over toward the right shoulder. This time the right hand can rest on the left shoulder, or you can bring it up and over your head and let it rest there. And again, think of rising up through the spine as you inhale and easing the head over to the side as you exhale. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, release. Inhale to lengthen. Exhale to release. One more breath here. Lowering your arm down to your side, gently lifting your head up to neutral. And then let go of any tension and see if you can rock your head side to side, just doing little semicircles, working back and forth. With a mind of curiosity rather than judgment. If you notice that there's an area of tension, take a moment and see if hanging out in that area can allow some of the tension to release. And then allow yourself to move again. And then bring your head back up to neutral. When you're ready, we're going to rise the right arm up into the air so that the bicep is near the ear. And then release the right hand in behind your back. Elbow is pointing up toward the ceiling. You can use your left hand to bring it to the elbow and slide the hand a little further down the back. Things we want to watch out for here is you don't want to be pressing the arm down behind the back if it means you have to scrunch your neck or arch your back. You want to still have a nice tall spine, tall neck, and you can release the arm down behind your back. Alternately, if it's available, you can bring your left hand in behind your back and see if the two hands can meet behind your head. If that's available, go for it. But again, you want to feel the right elbow lifting up toward the ceiling, tall spine, straight neck. One more breath here. On your exhale, release your fingers. If you're using your hands behind your back, lower the arms down to your sides. Check in to make sure that you've got a nice tall spine, pelvis is tilted forward. If sitting cross-legged for too long starts to bother you, give yourself time to move. If you need to straighten a leg so that you can keep the pelvis tilted forward and the tall spine, go ahead and do it. We're going to inhale and lift the left arm up into the air so that the bicep is close to the ear. Bend at the elbow, letting the hand come down behind the back. And then you can bring your right hand to the elbow. Again, elbow is pointing up toward the ceiling. You can press the elbow so that you release the hand down the back, still keeping the tall spine and straight neck. Making sure there's kindness in your thoughts toward yourself and your body. Often when we start doing stretch on one side of the body after already doing the other side, we might notice a difference, and that can cause judgment. If this side happens to be more tense, or if it's a little bit more uncomfortable, just be kind and gentle. Maybe you ease off and take this one a little bit more gently than the last side. If it was available, you can bring the hand in behind the back and clasp the fingers together. Only if you can keep that nice tall spine and neck straight, crown of the head is still lifting up toward the ceiling. One more breath here. Release the fingers as you exhale, bringing your hands down to your sides. Lengthen the neck, crown of the head lifting up, sits bones sinking down. And then we can move to the side. We're going to come up onto our hands and our knees. We want our hands to be directly below our shoulders, our knees underneath our hips, toes curled under and plugged into the mat. We're going to work on our balance for a moment. So as we prepare, we're going to inhale and draw the right hand forward. And then exhale. On your next inhale, lift your left leg and bring the left heel back. And exhale. As you inhale, feel the fingertips reaching forward and the heel reaching back. As you exhale, feel your knee and hand pressing down into the ground. Every inhale, feel lengthen. Every exhale, feel that you're rooted into the ground, pressing away from the mat with your hand and your knee. And of course, you're still breathing and smiling. And lower down. Check your alignment, make sure the knees are under the hips, hands are underneath the shoulders. We'll do the other side. So this time as you inhale, lift the left arm and bring it forward. And exhale. Inhale, drawing your right heel back. And exhale. Then with every inhale, think of reaching your fingertips forward and pulling your heel back. With every exhale, think of pressing away from the mat with your knee and your right hand. And lower down as you exhale. I mentioned that we're going to take time to pause in some of the postures. So preparing for your child's pose, you can bring your big toes together and sink your hips back toward your heels so that your torso is lying on top of your thighs. Or you can keep the big toes together and take the knees out to the side of your mat and sink your heart down in the center of your thighs, bringing your heart all the way down toward the mat. Hands can be extended out in front of you. Chin can rest on the mat or forehead. And we're going to take time, that silence. See if you can allow yourself to fully settle into the posture. And with every inhale, feel your body lengthening, unless, of course, your arms are wrapped around you. But if your arms are extended out in front of you, just think of lengthening your body. And as you exhale, feel your heart sinking down toward the mat. Keeping your thoughts on just the feeling of breath coming in and out of your body. We're going to stay here for 5 deep breaths. Try to let go of any other thoughts, just the breath. You can begin to walk your hands backward. If your knees are apart, you can bring them together. Take a moment to notice if any thoughts rose to the surface as you were breathing into your child's pose. It's easy to say to try to let go of our thoughts, but it's normal for the brain to continue thinking. So when we're in those moments of silence, if a thought comes along, just allow yourself to acknowledge, oh, I'm thinking, and then see if you can let it go without getting caught up in the story of whatever the thought was, and without being harsh in our thoughts toward ourselves. Oh, I'm thinking again, why can't I let go? So observing the thoughts that arise, acknowledging them and letting them go rather than getting connected and caught up in them, and also without being harsh or judgmental toward ourselves. We're going to take another posture and we're going to use our breath again and see if you can observe your thoughts as we go along. Find yourself in a seated position with your legs out in front of you. You want a nice tall spine and you want to allow the sits bones connect with the mat. Depending on your proportions, your hands can be down at your sides to start to make sure that you feel your sits bones grounding and your spine lengthening. We're going to bring the left foot in toward the right, letting the left knee open up to the side, keeping the right toes flexed so they're up toward the ceiling. The reason that we're going to do this type of movement is we want to feel the inhale and the exhale working with every movement. So get ready to inhale and draw the hands up overhead. As you exhale, hinge forward from the waist. Stretching yourself forward over the right leg. And when you can't go any further with your hands or reaching forward, and without allowing your back to become completely rounded, we're going to breathe in and think of lengthening. And exhale, see if there's any room to fold a little further forward. It might be a small movement, it might be a large movement as you continue to breathe in, lengthen, pulling long from the crown of the head. Exhale, fold a little further forward. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, fold forward. One more breath here. Inhale, coming up slowly, one vertebrae at a time. And take notice of whether your thoughts slowed down when you combined your breath and movement together, so that can keep your mind focused. Now we have the right knee out to the side. We're going to inhale the arms up overhead. Exhale, hinging forward from the waist, going as far forward as you can, bringing your hands out in front, keeping a straight spine as long as you can. And then inhale to lengthen. And exhale to release. We'll continue that breathing pattern, but in silence. One more breath here. Coming up one vertebrae at a time. You can either cross your legs or keep them straight, and we're preparing to close our practice today. So just a reminder, today we were focusing on Satya, finding the truth that is built on top of kindness. Taking time to slow down and notice our thoughts and not necessarily filter them, but become aware of them before we speak. And being kind in our thoughts to ourselves and others, knowing that when we speak to others from truth, it is to elevate them while maintaining integrity to ourselves. Bringing your hands together at the heart center for Anjali Mudra. You can allow your head to bow down towards your hands. Your heart leads the way, your mind surrenders. Namaste.